So I've been asked to write 2 obituaries in my life. One was my dad's, and I did not write his. I just did not have, I was only about 35, and I just didn't have the wherewithal to do it. And so he got a newspaper obituary in the town where he spent most of his career, and it was pretty well done. And then I was asked to write my mother's obituary. And
that's hard.
well, I had the opportunity. My mom had done an oral history with someone at Willamette. And so I had all of this material to work with, quotes and everything. And it's one of the best things I've ever written in my life. It's one of the things I'm the most proud of, was my mom's obituary. And I think I told this story to you last time. After I was done, and my husband read it, and we were both crying at the end. And I hugged him and I said, honey, I'll try to do as good a job for yours.
Oh, gosh.
And, well, we're not married now, so I could still do it, though. So that's why and my sister, and she's my older sister, and she said, you have to write the obituary. And she's my older sister, and so I have to do what she says. And so I did. But it was hard. It was incredibly hard, which is one of the reasons you might want to write your own. Because really, after you're gone and your family's grieving, they're not really in a very good position to write thoughtfully. You know, you might as well at least give them some fodder. So this is just our start. So why write it? Well, if you're Swan's age, then it helps you uncover your purpose. Like, I think Stephen Covey tells you to write your obituary so you know where your life is going. I don't think the obituary I would have written in my 30s would be the one I would write in my 60s, but I guess that's just a divergent life. Also, you have the chance to say how you want to be remembered. You have a chance to thank people. You have a chance to leave a note for your, meaningful words for your loved one. And it can help your family deal with their grief. Which, I honestly, I really don't know how I did my mom's, but I did it, So when you're writing it, just cut out the middleman. You don't really want to let the newspaper decide based on what they can find about you, what to write. And you better than anyone else. You know what was important to you, you know what was your hobbies, you know what were your passions. And I can guess, and I did, in my case, have my mom's, it was like a 20-page oral history. So I did have that, and I knew what her passions were. You get to decide how you want it to be. I've got some examples. It can be thoughtful, it can be heartfelt, it can be brutally honest, and I have an example of one of those. Clever, it can be funny. There were a lot of examples of funny obituaries. And you can relieve your family of that responsibility. Just make sure you give it to someone you know will publish it the way you want it. So what's the basic elements? Okay, let's write some basic elements down. Your full name. We're not going to look at this side yet. We're going to look at your full name, when you were born. Let's not put your death date in or the cause of death just yet. Let's hold on that. If you have educational and professional history, your kids, your children, significant others, best friends, hobbies, if anybody survives you and if anybody predeceased you, and then if you're having a memorial service, you'll have to leave that blank unless you've prepared that as well. If you want the handout afterwards, just let me know. I'll either leave them up here. If you want to give me your email address, I'll email it to you. But when you're thinking about, then there's the rest of it. I always say in between the birthday dash death day, it's the dash that's the important part. And that's really what you need to think about. What about makes you special? What was the focus of your life? Was being a mother important to you? Was your career important to you? Was it both? It can be anything. So when you think about this, how do you want people to remember you? You know, okay, Jane had ADHD and she couldn't stay on task for more than 10 minutes, but that was part of her charm. You know, how did you improve the world? You know, and that for me is important. I have a sense of social responsibility that I would want to come out in any obituary that I wrote for myself. Who is the real you? That's a time when you really just have to be kind of thoughtful and not superficial, but you know, who were you? I don't know how y'all write like cards to people, but for me, before I write, I sit for a minute and I just kind of think about them, and then what I write comes out. And I usually have to copy it because then somebody will say, "Thank you for that nice note," and I don't remember what I said. What did you say yes to? And I think even just as important, what did you say no to? What are things, maybe, boy, I wish I would have, you know, I had a chance to go to Europe when I was 20, and if I had it to do over again, I would have said yes instead of no. There's no rules. There's no rules at all for obituaries. And who will you miss?
When you're dead, what? Who will you miss?
Who will you miss the most? Who will miss you the most? Sorry. Or well, we don't know what happens after that, you know. But who will miss you? And so these are just some things to kind of get you thinking about what you want your obituary to be. I'm probably going to mention this later. Obituaries cost a lot of money. So you also have to be mindful of that. My mom died in 2012 and her obituary was $500. It was the most expensive thing related to her dying. And it was worth every penny. It was worth every penny.
Does it depend on location in the newspaper and stuff?
And inches, is it inches? Is it, yes. Inches or words or, all newspapers do it differently.
Do you know how much the Pioneer charges?
I don't know. And a lot of times you can only put a death notice in for free, and then and then you have to do. But you have other options too. You don't have to just post it in the newspaper. We'll get to that later.
Okay. Not Facebook, I hope.
Not necessarily, no. Although the drama teacher in Walla Walla died unexpectedly, and she had an adversarial relationship with the newspaper and basically said, "I'm not giving them any more money." She didn't say it like that though. She said it a little different. And
Could you put that one back for a second?
Sure.
The other slide. I didn't get all of it.
And she just refused to put the obituary in the newspaper. She posted it elsewhere. He was a teacher, so you could put it in the school paper and things like that. Okay, have you written down your basics?
You said we could get a printout.
Well, I can't do that until the end.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. Oh, yes, this. But have you written down your basic information? Your name, your birth.
Supposed to be doing that?
Yes, this is a workshop, ladies. Yeah, I know. If you want to, I'll print this off at the end and you can take it home and continue.
I would like one.
Yeah. To print out? Yeah, I'll give everybody one. I just have to print it. We've had a little internet problem today. So, well, Swan, why aren't you writing?
I'm writing with my brain.
Okay. Everybody ready?
Now, personal relationships, that would be what, immediate family?
It could be your husband. It could be your ex-husband. It could be your children.
Boyfriends?
Yeah,
Boyfriends?
all of them. Every one of them. Yeah. So here's some basics. I wrote mine, and it was February 11th. I died the other day. Wife, ex-wife, birth mother of two, other mother to many, passed away. That's just how I did it. And then I thought, why am I making this up when I've got one I've already written? So this was my mom's. I started with a quote, and her obituary was written in the we first person. I wrote it as if my sister and I were writing it. I said, our mother, Mary Ellen Manny, that's what she was as a grandmother. Gigi, that's a great-grandmother, departed life on February 11th, 2012, at the age of 96, and is now joyfully reunited with her husband, which was true in every sense of the word. So, but you can do it any way you want.
And that costs you $500?
No. I can show you the whole obituary. No, I've just written out a couple.
Wow.
So then, my birth date, education, marriage, accomplishments. Jane was born on December 9th, 1954. No secret there. In Walla Walla. She received degrees from Regis and the University of Michigan. She had various levels of success in marriage, 2 very successful divorces. Her greatest accomplishments were her 2 sons, Max and Pan.
Oh, that's nice.
She had many different careers over her lifetime, but her favorite, in addition to being a mom, was being a librarian. So, and this is just something that came out. I was just trying to give you an example. And then I won't read it, but this is what I wrote about my mom. And this is also not all of it. I chose not to share the entire obituary. But here I had a quote. I mean, Mom said that. There were 3 choices for women. You could be a nurse, a secretary, or a teacher.
I remember those days.
Yeah. And she went to normal school, which is teaching school back in the day. So that's an abbreviated version. But when you think about it, it doesn't have to be, you know, she was born here, she had 2 husbands. Well, I had 2 husbands. She had a husband, kids, she went to this school, and she worked as a librarian for 20 years. It can be as brief or as descriptive as you want it to be. And really, this is your chance to get the last word. Take advantage. So make it personal. How do you do that? Use quotes. Oh yeah, that's from mine too. First person or third person. So this was, for us, was first person basically. Dad used to tell us that Mom was the prettiest girl he'd ever seen, and that she was always the life of the party. He said that the only time he told this story all the time, the only time she was ever quiet was when he pulled out his engagement ring and asked her to marry him. She was silent for a moment and then looked up and whispered yes. I mean, I'd heard that story 500 times, and I thought this was just a significant part of their lives, how they met and how she said yes. You can choose any kind of style. You can be thoughtful. You can be sincere, heartfelt, clever, exaggerated. I've got examples.
No, what's an example of brutally honest?
I'll show you in a minute. But really, you want to summarize your legacy, leave your final parting notes for your loved ones, and thank people that made a difference in your life. I have a bunch of examples, actually.
You do that in the obituary story?
If you're writing it, yeah.
That would be in it. That would be part of it.
Could be. There's no rules. It doesn't have to be, but it could be.
Is written in the first person?
It can be, or the third
So
person.
you don't say Mabel wishes to thank.
No.
You say I?
You can. I've got an example of that too. So let's just look at a couple. So here's some funny. They were just quotes out of there. This I thought was actually really funny. Faced with the prospect of voting for either Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton, Marianne chose to pass into the eternal love of God.
Oh, gee.
And this is, I mean, these are actual obituaries. And then they said, Betty Jo used her final stamp on this earthly world to drag out a lifelong beef, which was the first Church of God, which she attended for 60 years in spite of praise music and AV presentations. So she's hung in there. Or this one I thought was kind of funny. She conquered polio as a child, contributing to the nickname polio legs, given her by her ex-husband. It should not be difficult to imagine the reasons for their divorce 35 years ago. And then the other was she considered Aaron a distant grandson, not distant enough. So, it's just basically putting a little humor on it.
But what would that grandson think about?
Well, she probably doesn't care.
She's been around the world.
And here's an example of a heartfelt one, and this is in the first person. She had cancer, and she had a lot of time to write her obituary, and this is just a small excerpt of it. I was given the gift of life, and now I have to give it back. This is hard, but I was a lucky woman who led a lucky existence, and for this I'm grateful. I first got sick in January of 2010. When the cancer occurred last year and was terminal, I decided to be joyful about having a full life rather than sad about having to die. That makes me cry a little bit, yeah. And then this was the best part of the whole thing. Died peacefully at home after complications from a radioactive spider bite that led to years of crime fighting and years-long battle with a nefarious criminal named Cancer, who had plagued our society for far too long. Civilians will recognize him best as Spider-Man and thank him for his many years of service to protecting our city. And then he goes on to talk more about his life after he does that. So that's just an example of exaggerated. I actually had these in a different order, and I decided to show you those before I got to the brutally honest one.
Painfully honest.
Leslie Ray Popeye Charping was born in Galveston on November 20th and passed away on January 30th, 2017, which was 29 years longer than expected and much longer than he deserved.
Oh my word.
At a young age, Leslie quickly became a model example of bad parenting, combined with mental illness and a complete commitment to drinking, drugs, womanizing, and being generally offensive. Leslie enlisted to serve in the Navy, but not so much in a brave and patriotic way, but more as part of a plea deal to escape sentencing on criminal charges. It's a real obituary. And I thought about copyright issues, but it's in the public domain. So, yep, his hobbies including being abusive to his family, expediting trips to heaven for the beloved family pets, and fishing, which he was less skilled with than previously mentioned. Leslie's life served no other purpose. He did not contribute to society or serve his community, and he possessed no redeeming qualities. Besides being, but that was written like that, quick-witted. Yeah, sarcasm, which was amusing during his sober days. While Leslie's passing will be missed for only what he never did, being a loving husband, father, and good friend. Leslie's passing proves that evil does in fact die, and hopefully marks a time of healing and safety for all. I mean, I think that's pretty brutally honest. So, do you want somebody to write this about you? No. Come on, let's get ahead of the curve on this. So those are just some examples. As I said, there's no rules. There's no rules at all. You can write whatever you want. Really.
Or what you can afford.
Yeah, or what you can, but yes, you can also post to social media. I posted my mom's on a blog that I have. You could also, honestly, just have it we also had it at the funeral or the memorial service. You get the little handout.
Or make sure in your will that you have set aside
money.
500 or more
Yep.
for the obituary.
Yep. Just designate money for your obituary. That's right. Before my kids get anything, $10,000 for my obituary. That's right. So, and that's really all I've got. I've got some references here. I'll go ahead and print this off, but then I want you guys to kind of start writing a little bit, get your basics down, and maybe just think a little bit about what are the important hobbies and passions of your life. Can you do that for me?
I suppose.
You don't have to share it with anybody.
Can you go to the, leave it on the very first, or not it was like the third slide that had the,
Yep.
Many bullet points.
There.
Hold the one I was trying to write down. How
Yeah.
will people remember you, that one?